My name is Gianluca Giulini. For those who don't know me, I'm a language service coordinator in the conference division of FAO of the United Nations. And first of all, I mean, when the interest of FAO to XML in general to structure standards started, everything started in 2015. We had basically two needs. First of all, there's the acknowledgement that FAO, as a United Nations organization, we have a lot of governance information. The FAO, as many other international organizations, is made of governing bodies. Those governing bodies produce a lot of governance information. And this governance information is pretty much embedded into static documentation text, which is difficult to consult. It's not machine readable. You cannot do much. And there's important information. And as well as FAO is also a normative organization. For those who don't know, for example, part of FAO is the Codex Alimentarius. The Codex Alimentarius has set the food standards. There are basically standards that are applied by all countries for food, like, for example, when you go to the market and you want to buy some fish, you will probably see that be underneath the name of the fish there is a FAO zone, which identifies the area where the fish was fished, basically, in which area. These are kind of things which are ruled by FAO Codex Alimentarius. And as such, also this normative work, it's difficult to be used by third parties, and so this is what we wanted to search, investigate whether there was any chance to improve the accessibility of this normative governance information at FAO. And as we are as well a conference division, and we do translation. Myself, I'm responsible for translation services. One of the main driving points also, we would like to increase the productivity. Of course, looking at XML immediately means to us that we have less working layouts, because one of the features, technically speaking, of the XML, you detach completely the layout from the data, from the content. And this, of course, in terms of translation, that means a lot of time saving and faster turnaround times, because you don't have to spend a lot of time in the final product. Some languages like Arabic, they literally have to spend a lot of time in adjusting layouts to match the original text, the original documents. So these two main driving forces suggest us to investigate the market. We touched base with Bologna. We developed successfully, I have to say, 6 proof of concepts in Akoma Ntoso. But there wasn't just a need of FAO. Actually, this was acknowledged to be a problem across the United Nations agencies. So in United Nations agencies, there's a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of, but it's extremely difficult to make access of this information, because it's really locked into this static documentation. And unless you're really familiar with each of the United Nations agency to go and search the documents, it's difficult to have a sort of common standards. So there's a body called UN High-Level Committee of Management, HLCM, which responds to the board of directors of a United Nations agency. Their target to define standards, so to across the United Nations agency. Specifically, working group was set up with the objective for defining a UN common machine readable format to harness the information embedding governance and normative documents. And the choice went to Akoma Ntoso, and specifically a dialect of Akoma Ntoso. So similar to what was done to the European Commission, where basically this working group defined a dialect of Akoma Ntoso called Akoma Ntoso for UN, and came up with a set of guidelines. Those guidelines were defining basically classes, which document to which class pertains. So the tag set that should be used for each of these document classes. As well as we also work on defining an ontology, a common ontology, which apply across United Nations agencies. Benefits are of course, that we wanted to increase the efficiency of those legislative process that have happened throughout the United Nations agencies, reduce administrative burden, facilitate preservation of digital assets, and of course, one of the main points, which is extremely important, across this governance documentation, there's a number of actions and commitment on actions to be taken on certain aspects. One of the main points, for example, the Sustainable Development Goals. Sustainable Development Goals is one of the targets for United Nations Agency for 2030. So there's a number of targets that had to be met by these states. And of course, it will be interesting to see across the United Nations which actions have been taken, what's the progress is made. And so Akoma Ntoso may help in a machine readable way to access some of those targets, some of those achievements and the progress made. Okay, what was the strategy at FAO for implementing the Akoma Ntoso for UN? We defined two different scenarios: the legacy documents and the new document. That's quite obvious. I mean, and of course it does demands different approaches. The approach for legacy documentation is actually, first of all, we need to train people. Of course, Akoma Ntoso, especially for the legacy documents, you need to have someone, a tool, of course, because you need a tool to do a markup. But of course, there might be someone behind who can kind of, able to dive through the complex, I would say, XML of Akoma Ntoso. And as well as, we were trying to leverage on the use of computer assisted translation tools to also producing the language version. FAO is a multilingual organization. We have 6 official languages, and anything we do, has to be covered in all 6 languages. So if we decide to mark up a governance document in English, we need to have also the same document markup in the other languages. So we have to approach it. Either we mark up each of them individually, or in a way we can, once you have marked up the language version, you can use the computer assisted translation tool for marking up automatically through the CAT tools also the other languages. That was our approach. Of course, when talking about a production of new governance documentation, we are looking to automatically convert to Akoma Ntoso the governance documents, and I will talk about this a little bit later. We'll show you, what is behind this decision. And same approach then, we're going to use to rely on computer assisted translation tools for the documents. So first of all, let's see more in details what is the approach for legacy governance documents. So we have somebody who's been trained in Akoma Ntoso, who's through the use of a tool, like for example LIME. We have used LIME from University of Bologna. You started from a legacy governing body documents, which are normally Word and PDF. So we produce the governing body document in Akoma Ntoso for UN. And then we send this to the translators, which through the use of CAT tools produce the equivalent in Akoma Ntoso. We'll see this a little bit more details later, how this works. And the overall, of course, the people trained can review the document. They can add some semantics, they can add some entities just to make it more enriched. The more semantics, the more option you have for searching, in context, of course, the documents are at the later stage. Overall, we have a repository of Akoma Ntoso for UN documents, which of course feed the website. The website, which are for end users, means actually every time they access the governing body's website in FAO, they can decide which is the preferred output format, and through a repository of style sheets, transformation documents, so they can get any desired output, PDF, Word, EPUB, whatever. Okay. So just to explain what is the general for this apply to all United Nations, to United Nations, what is the typical workflow of governance documents? Normally, the governing documents are first authored by, the secretariats of the governing bodies, technical experts, which, depending on their area, their domain, they produce these governing body documents. And once these documents are ready, we have two options here. Some of the United Nations have an editorial groups, so I have editors who get these documents from the governing bodies, and they edit, put in a nice English, and then send it to translation. Unfortunately, we don't have this luxury that FAO we used to, but we don't have any longer. In our case, actually, they send directly from the governing bodies the documents go to the translators. We translate these documents through the CAT tools, computer-assisted translation tools, and then this goes to, we get the conversion to PDF, which then feeds the governing body website for final users, which normally are members, and also they're all public documents, so anybody can access them. So this is a typical governance document flow. How this will transform by adopting a standard like Akoma Ntoso. I put both cases with editors, which is because this actually assumes two different things. So if you have the luxury of relying editors, because editors are normally concentrated in a single theme, they could, in theory, use an XML editor, so something which could, like Leo, for example, or they could basically take the text from Word sent by the secretariats and transform it directly into Akoma Ntoso. That will, ease the words. In our case, for example, we don't have such luxury. So the governing bodies, of course, so we cannot impose a standard because it will be too complex. And they working is a de facto standard, is a Microsoft Word. So we are aiming to find a tool which could transform automatically the document to Akoma Ntoso. Then it will be, of course, a necessary step to revise these documents and add entities to enrich the semantics at our side, so with some specific train conference stuff, and then send it to the translators, who will then translate. And as I explained before, this will feed a repository of governance documents in Akoma Ntoso, and then for the end users, which could be able to access in any desired formats. So, what's actually we did for so far at FAO? At the moment, we selected. This is for production. Because beyond the proof of concept we deployed with thanks to the collaboration with the University of Bologna. We said, okay, let's move on. Let's go in production somehow. Because we proved the concepts. Now it's time to go in production to something real. We selected two specific governance documents. One is the resolutions. A resolution is a very common governance document in all United Nations agencies. It's a formal expression of UN organization when that express the opinion and will of member states. So member states are strongly suggested to take certain actions, like to following up on certain issues or amending some documents, like legal documents or constitution, for example. It's important that they're not binding, so they're not like bill or laws, of course. And that's why also, normally the FAO resolutions are formalized in the conference. Conference is our main governing body. It's held every 2 years, and that's where all the resolutions are expressed. It's giving instructions of certain things to be taken. For those who are really know about Akoma Ntoso, the class was selected for this type of documents is a statement, which perfectly fit with this kind of context. So what we did with Bologna, we analyzed this document. Oh, by the way, other than the resolutions, we decided to mark up the FAO Constitution, which is, of course, as one of the first important legal basic texts of the organizations. What we did actually with Bologna, first of all, they did a thorough analysis of the document classes and developed some guidelines for us. which helped also in the markup of these document classes. And then automate this through, so they develop a special version of Lime in order to support these two governance documents. They trained a number of people in our service in the use of this of the tool of Lime, and we started marking up these documents. And of course, we had some revisions afterwards. So, and this is interesting to see how we did this also with the languages. In order to render and convert this in other languages, basically we were extracting the old language versions of these resolutions and constitution in text files. We had some of the CAT tools, those are quite leading in the market. We are using for you to know Trados, SDL Trados. SDL Trados allows to include specific custom XML settings. So what we did, we built, the Akoma Ntoso for UN tax settings inside the Trados, the computer assisted translation tool. We did some alignments between the English text, plain text, and the things, and then we start translating the document in Akoma Ntoso, relying on this specialized memory, translation memory that we have built out of this alignment. And it was actually quite helpful because, I mean, through the special alignment, through the inclusion of Akoma Ntoso for UN settings, basically you will see that the settings of Akoma Ntoso were taken as tags by the CAT tool, so there was no risk of having to rewrite in the targeted language to have to rewrite the tags. So it will automatically move from the English to the targeted language. And do the pre-translation, because the translation was already there. No, it's already been translated. There's no translation involved. It's just a matter of aligning them and do some final revision. And it was worked beautifully. I mean, we managed to. I'll show you now. I mean, the next will be. Let me. So. Sorry, and show. Okay, okay, I will, this is our timeline, sorry, I will stop sharing or new sharing. I want to show you the websites. Where is it? Should be here. Here we are. Okay, sorry for this interruption. So this is the results. It's in production, first of all. I mean, it's not something, not just an exercise. Finally, after many hits, we're very happy for this. As you can see, what we did, we took all the resolutions that were issued from at FAO from 1945 until recently. We had the last conference session held was July 2021, and in total we have 1,286 resolutions. So in all languages, and not all the languages, because some of the languages came into the picture, became official only at a later stage. Like, for example, Russian is an official language only since 2008, for example. So if I open one of these, you can see there's here we are. You can see, I mean, there are all the resolutions are basically listed here. There's a title, there's a numbering, and there's also the languages are available. So I can click on any of these languages. I can see in Spanish, for example, and I will see the resolution in Spanish, which is organized into all the different structure. I can search. I mean, I'm sorry. Something happened to my sharing. Can you see it?
No.
I'm sorry. What happens here? Okay, apologies for this. So you can see, I mean, thanks to the Akoma Ntoso markup, we were able to list all of these resolutions, but we have also able to search in categories. The resolutions have a very vast range of scope. You can see some are administrative, some are regards the amendments of a constitution, some regards appointments, some are procedural. So some are regards the finance, of course, budget and things like that. I mean, it's one of the first, let's say, the most important categorization was actually this kind of categories, which defines the scope of each resolution. So this we're able to see. If you want to know, for example, I want to know human resource. I want to see, for example, all the appointments of the roles. So I can define a role here. For example, FAO Director General. So I want to know all the appointment of FAO Director General from 1945 to today, something like that. So that's a typical search I want to know. Here we go. Here we go. So we have all the resolutions starting from 1945 who dealt with the appointment of a Director General. So that's, I mean, for example, I can open here with this one, and I can see here that the word Director General, this is a typical entity that we had identified, and this is highlighted. So this is where all the Director General was appointed. And you can see also there are some links here. One of the main points of the accomatizations of a governance document is actually we can interlink different governance documentations. So in this example, we have here that the appointment of a Director General is in line with a specific articles of the Constitution. And because we have now the Constitution in Akoma Ntoso, for example, here we have all the different expressions there are 24 different versions of the Constitution. So we can open one, for example, here. And we can see specifically which is the article in the Constitution that specifically deals with the appointment of Director General. There shall be a Director General who shall be appointed by the conference by such procedure and such terms to be determined. So this helps immensely in navigating and interlinking, interconnects all the governance documentation with one another. And as you can see also, because we are a multilingual environment at FAO, of course, so we need to ensure that whatever we do, whatever website has to be in all languages. So I can here, let me go back to the main page just to show you better what this implies. I mean, we have, not only we have the expressions, the versions of all the resolutions in all languages. But also we have the website itself is multilingual. So I can switch, for example, to Russian. In this case, the website will be in Russian. So also, and also the search, the structured search is now in Russian. That means actually I could here I could put, for example, something like that. So I want to see, show you better here. If I put the general director in Russian, the way we've been conceived also in the Akoma Ntoso, that actually this search of the entities, it's language independent. The entities are defined as such. So the translation of each entity is just one of the different form an entity can take. It's a label that can take, but overall, this also reconnect to the FAO Director General. So if I'm looking for this, I can get the same result I had before, but in Russian, you know, in the Russian descriptions. That's one of the, something which is, no, something wrong here, anyway. That's the main point, anyway, to be able to you know, to be language independent. Let's see now the Constitution, which is also extremely interesting. Sorry, this is our governing bodies page. For Constitution, as I said, we have distinct versions of the Constitution. Only the most recent ones are unfortunately in all languages. We can open one of them. And you can see basically here that as well, we can see all the version of the Constitution. All the different body, we can access here the distinct body through, you know, this access, which is all the structure that is the navigation. Interesting that we can see, I mean, for example, it's the we can see what has changed from one version to another. We can compare versions. That is extremely extremely interesting, similar to what we saw before with Leos. We can compare this version with the previous one. We can see here basically there are some changes, I'm sure. Not here. That's strange. Let me take another version because I'm sure there were some changes here. I took in 2019, for example, 2009, sorry, and I compare. Here we are, for example, the 0.9 was added in 2009. Here we have for example, 0.6 was added. Here the word chairman was converted into chairperson to have a more gender neutral language and something like that. This is really extremely useful for legal people. Sometimes, you know, it's difficult to get what the changes are. And this is extremely important for all normative documents. Because I mean, it's interesting to know, especially I'm talking about the codex, for example, if countries are adopting a specific codex rule, and that rule has changed over the time, and they know whether they're now if they're abiding by that rule in their own country, they know what changes they've implemented in the new version of that same rule or the same law to see if they're still abiding by the rule in the same way. So I'll go back to the presentation now. Okay, here we go, just to have a timeline of what's going on. I mean, at FAO. So we launched this portal in August, as you can see. And now there's an important, aspect that we're waiting now for WHO, World Health Organization, as we are quite aligned with them in terms of needs and requirements. They have launched a tender to identify a tool to convert all the legacy documents into Akoma Ntoso for UN, and at the same time they want to identify a tool for the extraction and conversion of documents and normative documents to Akoma Ntoso. So the two main scenarios that also FAO is looking for. And as you know, probably when we have a United Nations agencies that investigate the market for a tool, as a United Nations agency ourselves, we can rely, we can say we can piggyback in term on their decisions for adopting the same tool. So now we are very much forward to hearing who the winner is, and then we already agreed with WHO. We're going to start a sort of a joint project to start implementing this at FAO at a larger level. Thank you very much. And sorry for this chaos with with the sharing.
Thank you so much for this very clear presentation. Thank you. You stressed some points that are very relevant, like the organization of the management. That is a very key point in these projects, and how you are conducting also the team competencies. So there is a question in the chat from Carlo Ferrigato. If you allow also searching against AgroVoc index term, if you want to say something, otherwise I can answer.
No, yes, I mean, of course, I mean, AgroVoc is, for those who don't know, is probably the most popular ontology produced by FAO, and definitely one of the targets we have is actually to mark up, to annotate anything that has to do with AgroVoc, I mean, to align our marking up with AgroVoc whenever it's possible. We didn't have the chance now to move that, but definitely, I mean, now that we are moving ahead with the implementation, is something to consider. On top of that, I mean, on top of AgroVoc, we are trying to build an internal ontology in line with the standard defined at UN level for defining all the governing bodies entities. I mean, the memberships and so on and so forth. I mean, we also have another one which deals with countries. I mean, all the countries with membership with FAO, with membership to governing bodies. This is something which, I mean, it's born to be organized and built on top of an ontology, and this is something that we are aiming to also to increase also the, let's say, the semantic interoperability of our documents, to rely as much as possible on what is already available. And definitely AgroVoc is one of those things that we want to make use of in the future.
I would like, hello, this is Giorgos Aristarchos from EP, from European Parliament. In your last slide, you said that you were planning to have an XML-based production of AKN for UN documents.
Yes.
This means that you will not convert from Word. You'll directly have an editor that will produce these documents. And if so, did you select some editor yet for that?
Unfortunately, well, I mean, the reality of FAO is that we have such a vast number of people all over the world that are writing these documents, governance documents, that it's not realistic that we could implement an XML editor ourselves. It's easier when you have, like, for example, in New York. In New York, they have anything that is produced outside. It comes to a centralized group of editors. So there's 20 editors that are writing the documents for the organizations. They get information from the expert, the subject experts, and then they write themselves the documents. In that case, yes, the XML editor is the way to go. But in our case, we have such a vast population that it won't be realistic to impose a tool that has to be disseminated to 3,000 people. You know, it's not realistic, unfortunately. So in our case, yes, we're looking for a tool to convert the documents. What we're going to do probably, because we have to assume that they're going to use Word, we're trying to define some specifically Word templates, which facilitates afterwards the conversion to Akoma Ntoso. So they say, I need to work a document which is, for example, an agenda for my meeting. Okay, the agenda has to follow specific standards, specific structure. That structure, because will probably ease the conversion to Akoma Ntoso afterwards. That's something we could try to do. We will try to do, of course. So we will have a libraries of pre-built, pre-formatted Word documents for each of the document class they're producing. So that's eventually the conversion to Akoma Ntoso will be extremely easy and automatic.
I see. Thank you.
Welcome.
For your answer.
Thank you so much. If there are no more questions, we can call the break, but feel free to jump in the discussion for the last minute urgent question.